and where we can see what went on if you happen to doze off or something. What I'm also looking at is doing a Friday clutch on Zoom. And my tentative date is the 15th of January. And our first volunteer for a clutch project is John Peters. And what he's going to do is a little leprechaun. I think he's got on his, or something like it, on his show and tell. So for the clutch thing in February, middle of January, I'll get some more details from John and some diagram, and we'll send it out before then so you can prepare your, because this is sort of a carve along thing. I hope that you'll carve along with it. Sort of look at it going from about 1:30 till 3 o'clock, or whatever John feels comfortable doing under the gun on a live presentation. So we'll send you out the details of what you have to do to get ready for that project on January the 15th. And following that, I hope to get another general meeting, hopefully with a few more warm bodies in attendance, on the 3rd of February, which is the first Wednesday in February. So we'll try and get back to doing Wednesday evenings. And we'll see if we can line up a presenter for that night. So we're looking for volunteers for that. I passed on down to you yesterday on an email the OWCA Horizon letter from Murray Lincoln. And there he has some ideas about participation in a virtual show in the February-March timeframe. It's just send in your pictures, and more of a fun thing for this one. So there's no prizes or anything. It's just send in your pictures, and people will get the best of, most popular vote sort of thing. So they've got a little trial thing at the start of their letter. There's also a thing on there from the what they call it, the wood show folks, and what they're proposing to do. And this is all, again, all on a Zoom type platform. And so they've got some things coming up as well that they're the people that want a little bit of money for participation. So I'll let you decide, and I won't recommend anything on that part. Okay, so the next part I'll jump to is I'll go back before I go any further. And I have a little sad note to pass along to people today. Some of you know Andre Dusselblanc and his wife moved off to St. Bruno in August. Well, unfortunately, Barb passed away yesterday. So I talked to Andre at lunchtime today, and I talked also to his daughter earlier today as well. And I expressed my condolences on behalf of the club and myself. And I'll send him a card and stuff. So I thought you'd like to know that part. It's you probably now realize why Andre and Barb moved to St. Bruno. So, okay, after that, we'll swing into the treasurer's report. Can I get the, screen sharing, Patrick?
You don't see share screen at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, but it doesn't, the host disabled.
Oh, I did not. Hang on a sec, I'll be right here. There you go. Try now.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, where I got it? That one. Okay. This is a sort of recap I've done here. I've done, where's my little,
I think
there we are. Spotlight. That's the thing I want. There we go. I can show you where I am. So there's last year's numbers for revenue, and I can't get them all on the same. Well, I could if I shrunk it, I guess, to. Okay. Okay, revenues last year were just over 6,500. The part that everybody's really interested in is how much we spent. And we spent about $7,500 last year, which was, the difference really was what we spent on the competition. Note that this expenditure was for the ribbons. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. The prize ribbons. And they're safely in the storage locker, I believe. So that's sort of the difference there. And this year so far, we spent about $700. A little bit on the clutches we held early in the year. The meetings expense is actually for this program that we're using, Zoom. We bought one license, which gives us the ability to do up to 100 people for as long as we want within a period of time. But no time limit. Like when you're on the free one, it's 40 minutes and you're out, Charlie Brown. So this one is unlimited time and 100 participants. So it's worth $180 a week, as long as we make it worthwhile by using the thing. The storage is the locker at Diamond Storage on Carling there, and it runs $74 a month and change, 74 and change a month. So that's how much we spent since our fiscal year, for those who are not aware, is from 1 September to 31 August. So this year so far we spent $700, just over $700. Our bank statement, today we're at 10,000. We have to keep a contingency fund. And I think Rita has a check somewhere, and I have some cash on hand. So our free balance at the moment is just over $9,000. So we're not going to go broke during the pandemic by not having any membership dues coming in, because we're not spending a lot. So I'm, fairly satisfied that we can survive the pandemic without any changes. So if you have any questions, by the way, you can use chat and send them when things are going on. If you know how to use chat, you can just send the questions by chat, and perhaps Patrick can pick them up and relay them to me if you have any questions, or put your hand up and Patrick can let you speak.
Anybody who wants to speak now can unmute themselves and ask a question.
Nobody want to question? Nobody, no questions? Oh, okay. I won't ask, make this a formal statement, but that's your financial report for the last year's and where we're going this year. And I suspect that we probably won't get into the
Serge, you have a question? Yeah, just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get used to this tablet. Some reason I can hardly hear Andy. I hear everybody else, but Andy sounds muffled at my end. But that's okay. Andy, is the church charging us anything?
No, not right now. Nope.
Not even for storing our box?
Nope. I talked to them there, and
Oh,
they said, we'll talk about, you know, what we giving us a credit for the months we didn't use. But I didn't push it because the church has always been good to us, so I didn't, you know.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why the sound is different just for you. It's very strange.
I was too far away from the mic. The mic is in it. It's only a little mic in the camera, so I gotta lean a little further forward, maybe. Yeah, I was going to say about the yeah, that we got it. The figures on the here you see the clutches. We spent less than $2,000 last year on the clutches because they gave us money back. I actually got checks back from the city or credits from the city. So we didn't do too badly there. The facilities at Heron are closed until at least the 31st of March, and the museum is as well. So we're limited. What we were able to use would be the West End at the Creative Arts Center, but the room capacity there is 22, I believe. So that's where we stand with looking forward to clutches in the spring if things relaxed even more and allowed bigger groups in rooms and stuff. But as it stands right now, I think the best way is to go on using the Zoom and having people do some live presentations, or perhaps we'll find some other ways of entertain you for clutches. Okay, so enough of that from me. I think we'll go now to our, I'll shut that screen thing off. And we can go now to Christopher. There he is. So
Here I am.
So Christopher is our main our presenter for this evening. He volunteered to do this. I didn't twist his arm, and no money changed hands. He's just a volunteer to give us his what he experienced last year when he went to Prague to this Marionette wood carver workshop. So I'll turn it over to Christopher now.
Okay. Patrick, I'll need some kind of a link so that I can show my presentation, please.
Do you have a share screen on the bottom? What we did the other day?
Yep, I see it now.
Yeah.
Very good. Can you see the screen?
We can see your screen, but it's blank right now. It says Christopher has started screen sharing. There we go.
Great. I'll begin then. So this started out as a presentation about wood carving at an organization called Puppets in Prague in the Czech Republic. And I've expanded it to include some online courses that I've taken in 2020. I spent the month of August 2019 in Prague. For 2 weeks, we built our own marionettes. For a week, we rehearsed. And then for a week, we did shows with them. Here goes. So today I'm going to cover some history of the use of marionettes in Czech puppetry, why study in Prague, a few minutes of travelogue, shall we say, design and construction of a traditional Czech wooden marionette, how we use the marionettes we've built, online courses that I mentioned before, and a few more photos from Prague. Here goes. So from 1600, 1900 approximately, puppetry was imported into Czech Republic in the late 17th century by itinerant puppeteers from Holland, England, France, and Italy. And initially, Czechs assisted the foreign groups, but by the end of the 18th century, Czech companies had been established. You can see here some older marionettes from the past, finely carved hair on them, carved beards, really fabulous. In the late 18th century, family puppet theaters were designed and produced in great numbers. This one is from a museum in Prague. The marionettes are about 10 inches, about 25 centimeters tall, and they would have been used for the entertainment of the family. But at the same time, a nationalist movement led to Czech intellectuals getting involved in puppetry because they could speak their own language in puppet shows, whereas they couldn't in the theater proper. So it allowed them to again speak their own language and say what they wanted to say in Czech. Now, if you get into the early 20th century, many amateur groups were formed, and at one point there were over 2,000 companies in the Czechoslovak Republic after the end of the First World War. Many of them were aimed at children, but not all. Now today, puppetry is still popular, but not as much as in the past. The modern digital distraction, shall we say, there as in everywhere. These two characters are Špíbl and Hurvenek, his son. Špíbl is a professor. Hurvenek is the much smarter member of the family, and children love this. That's the premise of the show. They're on television today, and even though I don't understand Czech, I find them delightful to watch. So why study in Prague? National Marionette Theater. There's one of the reasons. I attended a marionette version of Mozart's Don Giovanni at the National Marionette Theater, also known as Národní divadlo Marionette. The marionettes would be about 3 feet tall, shown on this stage. The place held about 100 people, and they performed to a recording of Don Giovanni, about an hour and a half, somewhat shrunken version. The real thing takes closer to 3 hours. Puppetry Museums. This is a museum I visited in Pilsen, southwest of Prague. Here's a photo of some of the ancient marionettes shown there. Pretty scary. Had I seen those as a child, I would have raced out of the room, let's put it that way. But not all of them were scary. These ones less scary. A couple of knights, king and queen, and prince, I guess. And on the right here is the Jester, who appears in many traditional Czech shows. Czech. You'll see him later in my presentation today. And while I was in Pilsen, I checked out the brewery there. This is where they make Pilsner Urquell. In fact, they make several beers there. And as I mentioned, I don't speak Czech, but I learned a few important phrases, such as neumím česky mluvíte anglicky, meaning I don't speak Czech, do you speak English? And of course, the first time I used this, I reversed it. So I told them I didn't speak English, do you speak Czech, which got a chuckle. Anyway, important phrases, beer please, pivo prosím, or jedno pivo prosím, and where's the bathroom, which follows on closely after having consumed beer. Kde je toaleta? And I speak other important words like Pilsner Urquell, Kozel, Czechvar, and Gambrinus. Enough of that. Puppet shops. There are puppet shops in the center of the city, such as you see here. This is some of the puppets on offer. Now, these are mass produced, also for sale in local markets. And if you go to the west bank of the Vltava River, the other side of Prague, if you will, the west side of Prague, there are two fabulous shops, or were two fabulous shops, Marionette. They have a combination of carved marionettes, such as you see here, some carved ones in the background, and some mass-produced ones for those who prefer that. Beautiful things. And a shop right near them, Trular Marionette, where they're all hand-carved by some 50 artisans who supply the store. Here's an insect. My only disappointment as an entomologist was that it had 4 limbs, not 6. And another carving here. Unfortunately, both of these latter 2 shops, I believe, have closed due to the pandemic. I hope they'll be able to come back in some form when all has passed. Anyway, just beautiful, beautiful constructions they are. And then the museums and art galleries. The Museum of Communism is a very sobering visit. Kafka Museum, shall we say the fountain here out front is a rather amusing one. It's not running at the moment, you see it in the photo here, but it did run. It has fine opera houses, Stavosky Divadlo. I saw Don Giovanni, the marionette version, as I mentioned, and I saw the real thing at this opera house where Mozart premiered the work in the late 1700s. It stands still today. Still, it's a beautiful place. And I also saw La Bohème at Narodny Divadlo, another fine opera house, gorgeous building, just massive place and beautiful inside. Beautiful churches and synagogues, Kostel Sv. Mikuláš and Staronova Synagoga, both beautiful, beautiful buildings. The synagogue is one of the oldest in Eastern Europe. It dates from 1270. It's amazing that these buildings stand today after all the wars and communism and various things that have happened in history, that they have returned to their former glory. And of course, it's a beautiful city. Prague Castle at left, Old Town Square at right, just gorgeous at every turn in the old part of town. So on to puppets and carving them. So I attended, as I mentioned, Puppets in Prague, where our first 2 weeks were spent carving, in fact, 12 or 14 days. So I walked up to this building here, you see in olive. Let's get up closer. There's the front entrance, pressed the door buzzer, and I was in. At left, you see the shop. Each of us had our own workbench. There were 10 of us there to carve puppets. And we worked under the direction of Miroslav, or Mirek, as he was known, Tretniar, and his colleagues. He would have various people come for various stages of building to assist him in showing us how to do this. Mirek presented in English. Some of his helpers, not so much, but they just would point and show us what to do and show us an example of how to carve an eye or whatever, and it worked just fine. Again, we each had our own workbench. So a traditional Czech wooden marionette is different from those that I'm familiar with. I did some marionetting in my teens, and I'm getting back into it now in my 60s. Whereas the marionettes I used back then were strung from a controller with no rod to the puppet. In the traditional Czech system, there's a rod, and you see it here that I'm pointing to, running from the body through the head up to a controller up above. So this is a schematic diagram to show you something of how they're built. The hinging knee, hinging hips, an arm. You don't see the upper arm because that's actually a cloth sleeve tied into this bullet, if you will, sticking out. Now, before we carved, we were each asked to send in 2 or 3 drawings of puppets marionettes that we could build. And Puppets in Prague chose which one we would carve so that we would all carve the right characters, 1 character each, for a show called Shipkova Ruzhenka, or the Sleeping Beauty, that we were to perform in. These marionettes that we built were about 2 feet tall, or drawings about 1 foot tall. So they got scaled up into what you see here, the drawings done in preparation for carving in basswood. These drawings were transferred to suitably sized blocks of wood. You can see part of a head block here. We can see it more clearly shortly. But before we look at what I carved. I'm going to show you eight slides from Puppets in Prague. Here's a piece of wood, 3 pieces of wood laminated, glued together, because of course, if you carve a block of wood from one solid block this large, it's too likely to crack out on you. So this prevents that from happening. The face is drawn with a side view and a front view. So on the bandsaw, start to cut in. More cuts here, further cuts here. You can see some of the nose starting to appear, just the top of the mouth starting to appear. Again, more of the nose appearing, the head starting to be rounded off, and more cuts front and rear. And finally, you see it's just about done and finally done. And this is now ready for hand carving. Probably 5/6 of the wood has been cut away in the bandsaw, meaning you don't wear out too many chisels or carving knives. From here, we used chisels, 10-inch Swiss-made chisels for our carving. So here's the head block coming back to it for my marionette. And at right, you see the hands, the full arm. And you'll see there's no separation of hand and arm, which I'm used to there being a hinge here or a screw eye or something. This makes the puppet more robust. You can literally throw them around when this is all part of one piece. And in the Don Giovanni show, they did throw them around a bit and they stood up well. So here's my head. It's come out of the bandsaw, and I've started to do a little carving with the chisels here and here. And here's another view of it. I have to do the mouth, quite a bit of work on the nose, quite a bit of work on the ears. The eyes are sketched in. On to the next. Oh yes, my tools at left, some of them. We had a huge choice of chisels. Any size we needed was available to us. And at right here, you see the head much more developed now. Now the carving helpers would help us by showing us, say, how to carve, do a step in carving an eye, and then I'd do the step, and then they do the next step, and then I do the next step, back and forth. I'd watch them do some, and then I'd copy. Great way to learn. Same with the ears, same with the mouth, same with the nose, that are only partly complete here. And here's the head, except for the nose that I haven't finished yet. It is just about done there. Now, just a little aside here. Before we started carving our head, we did a practice day on working on joints. So what you see here is the hip and upper leg and lower leg and foot, of course, marionette. A top view and a top view opened out. This bit of wood here is connected to this bit by a nail that one adds here after all the work is done of carving. And the same here, nail hole through here and here. And let's see now, the foot here is glued into place, the hole drilled into the lower leg and the top of the foot above the ankle, and a piece of dowel installed. That way, with the wood grain running this way on the shin and the wood grain running this way, you have maximum strength. This isn't going to break off as easily as if this had been carved from one big block of wood. Feet will break off into those circumstances. This is much stronger, really neat. Now, side view, blown up here. And what I'm showing you here is we've shaved away some wood here and here, some wood here and here. And you can see it looks a little different here from here. And this is critical because these puppets can kneel and they can sit and not fall over. This is for helping them to kneel. If you get that just right, the puppet will be able to kneel and not fall over. If you cut too much off, the puppet will fall over. You'll note I use the words puppet and marionette interchangeably. I always mean marionette, of which is a type of puppet, of course. So just to show you what I mean by this, we've carved this such that a puppet can lean forward when sitting. The body would go up like this, and the center of gravity would be over approximately the knee. Or it can kneel and it's leaning back slightly. Camera doesn't quite show it right, but it is leaning back slightly. And the center of gravity is over the middle of the leg there. So back to the puppets I was building, the puppet I was building. Here are the raw blocks of wood for the feet and legs. And here are the legs. I've now carved the upper and lower legs, but have not yet carved the feet. They are glued in via holes and dowel prior to doing this. You can see the joint here better than over here for the leg. I've carved the upper arm, but I haven't carved the lower arm yet. This is what it looks like having come out of the bandsaw. And here's the main part of the body. It's 2 blocks of wood that have been glued together. The hips and the upper part of the body. A hole here again for a pin to go through, a nail to go through to hold the leg in place. This is where the arm attaches, and this is where a pin goes through, and that pin connects to a rod, the rod that runs through the head, and all the way up to a controller, which is off screen. So this one's ready for carving now. And here it is, the finished carved creature. I have finished the nose and the hands and the feet and the body. Now we had to build a controller for the puppets, of course, too. And this is where this is a photo of preparing the handle in a lathe. And this is another part of the controller. They're of hardwood, whereas the rest of the puppet is of basswood, much easier to carve. We're not actually carving the handle and controller. At right, you see what the controller looks like. But before we talk more about that, you can see a rod here that's running down to the head of a puppet. This is the king with his crown, and he has orange hair. Remind you of somebody? Anyway, this rod is being bent, is heated up to a high temperature under a blowtorch and is being bent. We're heating right here, and then we pop those 2 bits of wood, the handle and the other piece of wood, through here quickly so it doesn't burn on its way through. And then while that is still hot, we bend it down and bend it over. And that bending over makes it safe so it doesn't catch on eyes and clothes and things. Now to make the marionette walk, we have 2 leg strings here and right over here. And you simply grasp the handle. I'm right-handed, so I'll grasp with my right hand, turn left and right. That makes the strings go up and down for the legs, and the puppet can walk. And these 2 strings attach to the hands. They are closer to the middle here, so they move less than the feet, but it gives them realistic movement. They're not moving excessively the way feet would do. And one can operate a marionette like this with one hand. You can reach over the control if you have long fingers like me and twitch a hand string or whatever. I mean, it's better if you use your left hand for the hand strings, but you can do it with your right hand if you practice enough. So unlike the marionettes I'm used to, you can operate 2 at once. So the ones I'm used to from these photos, this is an airplane control. I'd hang on to this part with my right hand, and I'd be lifting off these bars with my left hand to make arms and legs move and so on. And here, although you can twiddle these, the string here and the string here to make it walk, you still need your other hand to do things, to move the hands, to move other parts of it. And as you can see, you can't just put one of these on the floor. You got to hang it up or it'll get tangled. Going back a bit, the Czech marionette here never tangles. So here's the body finished and painted. We had help with advice on how to paint and make it look good. And then here it is with hair added, costume that we made with help, although we did it ourselves, but just with advice. And here's the happy builder. As you can see, my marionette's about 2 feet tall, as I mentioned before, all ready for a show. You can see the neck here clearly. If the puppet is standing firmly on the ground, when I turn the control above, which is above this rod, the head will turn and the body won't turn. So another motion there. As I mentioned, this marionette can sit and it can kneel And in both of these photos, I'm not holding on to the controller. Controller is going straight up and a little bit forward, straight up, just a bit backwards. The feet hold it up here. Its bottom holds it up here. So here are the 10 marionettes that we built. 9 of them were in the show. 3 of them were godmothers. Guess which of these 3 is the evil godmother in the show? This is the princess. This is a bug someone made, and they weren't in the show. They just were there for 2 weeks of carving and wanted to build a bug. It was fabulous. A jester. I mentioned, you see another one. A wonderful jester. This one has a painted body that looks like cloth. It's painted on. The king and queen. The prince. He has carved hair. And the prince's friend. So we rehearsed for a week. First few rehearsals indoors, the last ones out of doors to get used to performing out of doors. For in the final week, we did 8 shows out of doors, and you need to be used to it. So there's the king just sitting on stage waiting. I actually operated the king in the show because I have a lower voice. There's my character back here, hooked onto a bar behind the stage. That won't fall off because of that little down pointing bit of metal. There's the prince also hanging there. So again, our show was Shipkova Rushenka, and we performed 6 shows at the Letna Festival in Letensky Park in Prague. They were preceded by a dress rehearsal at a children's camp and followed by a final show at a children's camp. So we did 8 shows in all. Here are a few photos from the show. King and Queen talking here. And you'll see, people can see from the audience, which is down here, they can see us. They can see some of the performers outside here. Here the king and queen are oohing over the arrival of the princess, a new baby. Matane, from a woman from Spain, as the other participants were from all over the world. Anyway, Spain, she did a most marvelous crying baby. She sounded better, more like a crying baby than a crying baby. And here's the prince about to reawaken the princess here, who's been asleep for 100 years. And here we are, another view, leaning over the bar there with all our puppets in action, and children and their parents watching the show. We had about 1,000 or so attend the 8 shows, I would estimate, in total. And here we all are holding the puppets that we built after our very last show. Now I added on online courses to this presentation, just to say a bit about what's happening during this pandemic. So since the summer of 2020, Mirek Chetnyar of Puppets in Prague has been conducting a series of live online woodworking workshops in English for paid subscribers, paid online subscribers. The participants design a marionette, rather as we did. And then Puppets in Prague mails the parts that have been cut to size, and the students learn how to carve them through a series of live online demonstrations and individual consultations. And the recordings are subsequently made to the students, available to the students online. Now, I attended 2-hour online refresher carving sessions this autumn to refresh on what I learned while I was there in 2019. And I was provided with a wonderful 53-page wood carving manual that you see it right here. I'll just present one page of this copyright document, quite marvelously helpful. And they're doing other workshops such as movable jaw, animal carving, Czech marionette. This would be a weightlifter, I believe, and disjointing skeletons. For disjointing skeletons, I mean the head can lift up and off the body, and the body can separate from the arms and legs and or the head at the same time. They're quite marvelous. I have one built by a company called Pelham Puppets that made them in England in the 1960s. They're really, really fun. And the other online course I took was from Iceland, from Bernd Ogrodnik, shown here with his pensive pal that he'd carved. And it's basically an online course in which he filmed 8 one-hour segments and made 2 segments available per week to paid online subscribers. who could access them for a total of 2 months. And he also held some on-camera live sessions where subscribers could ask questions that he would answer. At the end of the session, participants would have designed, cut out, and carved a tabletop puppet of about 10 inches in height. And those who have completed the course are ready, in his view, for building a larger wooden marionette because they have the basics under their belt. And that can be done in his next online master course. I attended the first online course and I benefited from many useful woodworking tips. At right, you see some of his fine creations. Wonderful, wonderful creatures that he carves here. Oh, goodness me. I think this one's from a TV ad at the bottom. So back to Prague. I'll finish up now and just show a few photos of the beautiful city. Kampa Island at left, a bit like Venice it feels. Prague Castle from up on the hill at right. View of the Vltava River. Again, Prague Castle in the background. And the TV tower in Prague. This is fascinating. It's not much liked, shall we say, by the locals, as it was built by the Soviets in order to jam TV signals from the West before the Velvet Revolution of 1989. After the revolution, it became a Czech TV transmission tower. It's so big that these carvings you see on the side here are carved babies to try to nice it up a bit. They're 10 feet tall, at least each one. Amazing. And then there's beer. We'll come back to that subject. And at left here, we have, of all places, a British pub in Prague. It's called the Lion and the Bull. I went in, I didn't feel quite right in there. There were a lot of drunk young lads from England there with short hair who looked kind of mean and were watching football on the telly. I thought, I'm better off to go somewhere else. Besides, it was very expensive. And in Pilsen, while I was there, I had a beer in the town square. There were about 2,000 people gathered there and all getting rather tanked up. And I asked one of them what was happening. And a gentleman from Antwerp who spoke perfect English informed me that he and 2,000 other Antwerp fans, 90% male they were there for a football match shortly to start against the host Pilsen. A few seconds after I took this photo, they started firing off smoke bombs. It was quite exciting, really, and headed down this corridor here between buildings off to the stadium about 1 kilometer away. The police stood by and stood back, but made their presence known through overhead helicopter, paddy wagon, armored personnel carrier, men in heavy body armor with machine guns. Everybody left, everybody alone. Nothing got damaged. Not the place for me. I preferred this little pub in Prague, U Magistra Kelly, where I had my first kozel. For all of $3, I had a nice cold half pint of beer. That included a tip and a fine meal. And this beer garden, Kafan, right near where I stayed in Prague. A lovely place for a beer on a summer's evening. With that, I wind up my presentation and open it up for any questions and comments you may have.
Is basswood popular in Czechoslovakia?
Pardon?
Do they carve basswood?
Yes, they would call it linden there, but that's what they typically carve with.
And the painting for the puppets are they oil or acrylics?
I'm sorry, could you repeat, please?
Yeah, what kind of paint they use to paint the puppets?
Oh, yes, it would be a latex paint.
Latex.
Yes.
What got you interested in puppets?
Well, I spent a year in England when I was a boy in the mid-60s with my parents. My dad was an engineer and was there on sabbatical leave from University of Waterloo. And while I was there, I was given several Pelham puppet marionettes, and it took with me, shall we say. So I still have the ones that I was given then that I bought with my grass cutting and raspberry picking money, and others that I've picked up since. And now that I have somewhat more time, I'm semi-retired these days. retired from government in 2012, but I have a part-time business still. Now that I have somewhat more time, I'm getting back into it and learning how to build them, and want to someday perform with them.
When you were younger, did you just buy the puppets? When did you start carving your puppets?
Oh, just now. I'm just learning how to carve them now. The ones I had when I was younger, I would have purchased.
I have a question. Oh.
Do you have to put masks on your puppets now?
I'm afraid so. And it's hard to get the right size mask because they're smaller than the typical mask, but yeah, you make do. Yeah, there are ways to manage. You sew them smaller.
Chris, when you were at your carving bench there, I was interested to see how you were holding the puppet head. And was that sort of a vise that you had it in there?
Yes. It was a large vise. Each bench could be opened out to quite a substantial length, enough to put a full head in, as you could see.
And then you can sort of rotate them and carve.
That's right. Rotate them and carve.
You could get at it quite well.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. It was good for the heavier work. The lighter work, I would hold it in my lap and carve with the 10-inch gouges pointing away from me.
Nice.
Christopher, I was just wondering,
Yes.
the Icelandic puppets, are they built the same way with the rod through the head as the ones from Czechoslovakia?
I think generally not at that workshop in Iceland, but some are. But by and large, they're not, I believe. I'm hoping I'll get there someday and learn some more tricks, and I'll find out then for sure.
That was a lovely one you showed there.
Yes.
Yeah, Christopher,
Yes.
what do you use for the hair?
Well, for the hair on my puppet, it was simply a wig, one of these inexpensive dollar store wig materials.
Oh,
You attach it to a piece of cloth. You kind of run a sewing machine back and forth over a piece of cloth that would be a disc, say 5 or 6 inches, maybe 5 inches in diameter, and then you glue that disc to the head, and you can't see it.
Yeah, well, I make Indian masks, and we use horse tails.
Oh,
Yeah, they're about $50 a tail, if you can find them.
yeah.
But I use some of that synthetic stuff on the wigs, and it don't hang right, eh?
Yeah.
So
As I mentioned, some of the heads were carved hair, and that is harder to do than just gluing hair on top, I believe. But they look very good, what they did.
okay.
The controller is a standard controller, or they invented their own controller?
I don't know how long they've been using a controller of that nature, but it is a traditional, standard controller for Czechia. I've come to very much appreciate them having used them. As I mentioned in the Don Giovanni puppet version, where they had 3-foot tall marionettes, they literally threw them around a bit now and then, and they didn't break. And after our shows, we would walk out into the audience and hand off our marionettes to 5-year-olds who would wander off with them and bring them back to you. The marionettes came to no harm. They couldn't get tangled because of the rod, and they were very hardy. Not that the children were rough with them, but had they been, they would have survived such roughness. The children were really good with them.
Christopher,
Yes.
when you're doing the show, do the audience see the puppeteers all the time? Or is it traditionally blocked off?
Well, in my teens, it would have been blocked off. I built a couple of stages when I was in my teens where they couldn't see the puppeteer who would be standing on a riser up above the stage, hidden behind a curtain. And there'd be an opening, say 2 feet by 4 feet or whatever. I have a stage I put together a few years ago that's much lighter weight than the ones I built in my teens. That's about 8 feet wide, and I can lift the curtain to 2 or 3 feet above it. I haven't really used it much, where I'm headed is building individual performance marionettes that can do a variety act, such as I partially built one, excuse me, at a workshop in Vegas a couple of years ago. This one, a molded parts, molded urethane parts, and that was a balloon blowing clown. And I've obtained from a puppeteer in the U.S. several other trick marionettes, one that juggles, another that is a tightrope, sorry, not a tightrope walker, a trapeze artist, and so on. So that's where I want to head with this, is build more of that sort. And what I have designed in my mind to build is a weightlifter marionette, a wooden carved one. And I'd have a wire going down through the head to the hands where there'd be electric magnets. So you could lift up and drop a barbell, drop it on his feet, that sort of thing for amusement. So that's what I want to build. That's the goal. Build a few more variety marionettes and then perform with them where you can see me performing.
Subsequent question. When you booked a course, do they arrange all your where you live and everything in the course? Or?
Yes, they did. I stayed in a pension where several of the other marionetters stayed, and it was all of not even 10 minutes walk from the.
Oh wow!
It was a lovely place. It was. Some people were in shared rooms. I had my own room. There were shared bathrooms, but the place was spotless and clean. They had a substantial breakfast that carried us right through to dinner, and that was all for about $40 Canadian a night for 35 days.
Wow!
I was there.
Wow!
It was a very good deal and a lovely place, as I say. We'd sit out in the morning, have breakfast out in the terrace if it was a nice morning, which it generally was, and then head off to the puppet shop where we'd carve from 9 a.m. till, when did we finish? 5 or 6 each day.
They take their puppets very seriously. I know my wife's one of her previous bosses was from Hungary, and he was actually in a puppet. He was a puppeteer at one point at university, and he explained it was very, very interesting. And I'm sure as a child, I saw Elvis in GI Blues, and if anybody has seen that movie, I think it takes place in maybe Germany, and he sings the song "Wooden Heart" while they're doing the puppets, and it's they use bright colors on them, right? Like exaggerated.
Often, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Neat. Thank you.
Welcome.
One more question, Christopher. What's the impact of the coronavirus on their business?
Well, they've only been able to do business via Zoom, and I don't know what the impact has been on the bottom line, but it's no doubt been serious, as it has for so many businesses in the world. I hope these vaccinations take hold quickly, and that we'll soon be able to move back to the life we had before.
I'm going to have to say
my Marionette friend.
I have to go out and have some visitors to see to. So, au revoir.
Au revoir. I almost forgot I was going to drink this while answering questions. In my Czechvar mug.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that talk. That's really interesting.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll give Christopher a chance to have his beer now, and we'll move on to the our next part of the evening, which is the Wood Wizard with Pamela Pree being the briefer. And I have to share screen here and bring up her presentation because she's not too, unless you want to try, you don't want to try your iPad?
I don't have it on the iPad. I didn't bother.
Oh, okay. I have it down here on, so can I share screen and I'll bring up the Wood Wizard here. and start presentation here. How's that?
That's great. So I'd like to thank everybody who submitted entries for this. We had a good number of them. I'd also like to thank Kathy Potvin for judging this time, and I had forgotten with the last Wood Wizard to acknowledge her judging for that as well, so my apologies for that. So we had some really nice entries. I'll let you click to the next slide there. Thank you. So this is an elf's head that was done by John Peters, that he completed back when he was in Portugal. Oh, that we could go back this year, but alas, we can't. He painted it since he came home. And he says the inspiration for it came from a picture that he saw on Facebook, but he doesn't remember who posted it, so he can't credit them. And it was just done with a piece of scrap pine. So a little Christmas tree ornament. Next. And this, okay, next one's from Charles Brimley. And just a second here. He just sent these in. I didn't have any writing with it, but he's got two Santa heads that look like they sit on the edge of the mantle, and then a Santa Claus. They're very nicely done. These are from Conrad LaPlante. Next one. It's a cottonwood bark whimsical home that has a Christmas theme on it. He has a wreath on the door at the top. Another feature is the bell. He carved the pocket for the bell first, and then he made the bell separately to fit inside the pocket, and the whole thing's about 20 inches high. You can see a little elf hanging out the window. Next. This is a pyro that's been colored by Brian Graham that he worked on. I remember seeing him working on it when we were at our pyro clutches on Tuesday mornings. Very festive looking. Next. This is from Donna and John Bowser. It's a collection of about, or a sample of about 30 decorations that they've done. So they've been really busy carving Christmas stuff, and quite the different assortment there. Next is from Eric Haber, a 7-centimeter tall tree ornament for his grandson. And I said, oh, I'd love to be your grandson. That's really, really cute. I'm sure he'll be thrilled with it, Eric. Next. And these are from Sue McCullum, a lineup of Santas with a mix of old world and caricature styles. Some of them are in non-traditional colors, and a couple of Santas with their toy bags. A little change from your hoodie bears, eh, Sue? Next is from Larry Everett. I'm sure people recognize this. Next is from Harold Peel, a Santa on a shelf, and he commented that he looked like he'd been trying to navigate through COVID on a rough night with his little pinprick pupils. Next one is from our friend Dave, the Canada Carver. These were two, I think he'd started them when he was in Portugal last year as well. So they're actually two different Santas. The second one's a side view as opposed to a front view. Next. This is from Larry Reed. And we probably recognize his. It's funny, when I sent these off to Kathy to be judged, what I do is I take the names off them and I just send her the slides. But you know, a lot of carvers have their own particular style, so it's sometimes fairly easy to guess who's done them. And so the winners are next. First place, Kathy gave to Charles Brimley for his collection of 3 Santas. Second place went to Eric Haber. Next. Third place went to Sue McCullum, and honorable mention went to Donna and John Browser. And that's it. So I'd like to propose for the next Wood Wizard in February. We're having our meeting on February the 3rd. I'd like to propose that people submit carvings for Valentine's Day theme. Sort of seems the thing to do. And if I could have them in the week before, so if they're in by January 27th, that'd be great. I'll get Andy to send out an email with the particulars. So thank you to everybody for sending in your lovely Christmas ornaments, and thank you to Kathy again for judging. I'll mute now and you can carry on with.
Okay, for the next part is the show and tell from Sue McCollum. So I guess turn the share screen over to Sue and have her turn her mic on and we're off.
You should be able to share your screen there now, Sue.
Actually, I'm not sharing my screen because we agreed that people would just hold their pieces up for this aspect of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't get the photographs. I just wanted to confirm, Conrad, I know you had sent me an email. Was that your piece that we saw, or do you have something else to show us? Oh, good. Okay, so Conrad has a whimsical gnome home to show us, and if he can unmute there, maybe he can talk a little bit about that.
All right, guys. This one is another chunk. I bought 13 pieces of cottonwood bark from British Columbia. This one I just cranked out, finished off last week. So a gnome home thing, and going from the top to the bottom, I've got a little well here and a ladder going up, a door with an entranceway and a window open, a balcony with a balustrade on it, a round window, and another gnome looking through a kitchen window type of thing. And the chimney is an actual piece of the bark that was part of the entire log to start with, sort of thing. And just for fun, I put a little heart at the top. Would that count as my Valentine's Day entrance because I got a little heart on there? So anyway, that's the gnome home that I did last week. And for Christmas, I just finished making a Santa with a face mask. That's it.
Okay, thanks very much. Next up, we've got John Peters, and John has a dragon-headed cane that he'd like to show to us tonight.
Yes, I got an inquiry from a chap who's retired military, and he now needs a cane. So I made him this cane out of elm. Well, it's good and solid. It'll hold, he's a hefty fellow, so it'll hold him. But he wanted a dragon handle. And my understanding is that dragons have little spikes along their back, and that would make it rather hard to hold on to it. So instead, I added a piece onto the front of the cane and carved the dragon out of the piece on front. And I have attached it to the dragon with 2 screws through the back and then covered with a bit of wood filler, and the whole thing has been shellacked. So his reason for wanting a dragon is that he's retired on a disability pension, and in his now bountiful spare time, he writes fantasy stories that are focused on dragons. So, and one of the things I learned in this, a blue dragon is a very gentle one, a red dragon is a very angry one, but the golden dragon, such as this one, is the most kindest, gentlest, most helpful dragon. And why I still have it is that he hasn't yet been able to find time to come and pick it up. So therefore I have it to show you folks. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, John. Now, I understand you had another piece as well, John, that you want to show us a photo of?
Yes, if I can share the screen.
Sure.
On the desktop, let's see. My goodness. Hi. It's hidden in behind here. And I can't get at it. if I do that. This
Oh, there it
is a propeller for a half-scale Sopwith camel. The men's group that I belong to in Carlton Place is building a half-scale Sopwith camel. Most of the things they can cut out on bandsaws and other mechanized equipment and put it together. It's going to be on display at the Robert Brown anyway. The pilot who shot down the Red Baron did so in a Sopwith camel. And the pilot of the Sopwith camel was a native of Carlton Place. So they've got a little museum to him. So they wanted to have a propeller for the plane as well, but how are they going to do that when it cannot be produced on your usual saws and things? It would need to be carved. So this is 3 pieces of basswood laminated together. Some of the basswood had knots in it that made it extremely difficult to try to get to shape. And other parts of it were so punky I could carve it with my thumbnail. And so what I ended up doing was painting those parts with a mixture of glue and water to get some strength into the fibers before finishing the carving, because the edges come right down to a very fine edge. And there was another one, Sue, if you're ready for it.
Sure, I'm ready. Yep.
Was a, not that, on a new share. Desktop. Share the desktop. Why is it not going to the desktop?
You're still on the desktop. You just have to select a new picture. Oh.
We'll come back and we'll do it this way.
Okay.
And we want the desktop and we want to share. And here we are. This is what I called before and after. A chap came to me with a mirror. And on the top of the mirror, there was an eagle, only the eagle was broken off. The beak was broken off the eagle. The wing was broken off the eagle. And one of the finials was broken off. So this there we are. This is the before, when the eagle would have been in this area, and this finial was hanging on by a thread, and the one on the other end was completely gone. So back here. I can't seem to get out of that. Okay. Back here and back to the desktop. I won't bore you with a lot of details. The eagle before, as you can see, I put a pin in, drilled a little hole into the head, put a short dowel in, used 2-part epoxy putty from Lee Valley to build a blob out, and then recarved the beak. The wing was broken off, and I drilled 2 very small holes into the body and into the wing, and used small finishing nails as pins and 2-part epoxy to reattach the wing. And when all of that was done, the after has, now this is just the top of the mirror. Down below the bottom is the mirror itself, but there's the top of the mirror with both finials in place, the wings back on the bird's back on top, all with pins and 2-part epoxy glue. And the chap was really happy to have this back. It had sat in storage in his place since his move to Almont about 10 years ago, and it had broken apart in the move. He has no idea where it came from, but was happy to have it back in one piece at his home. There's my bits.
Okay, well, thanks very much, John. You'll have to share a picture of the sock with camel with this when it's finished.
Yeah,
For
and
another show and tell.
we told them it would be ready for Remembrance Day. We didn't say which year.
Well, there you go. That gives you lots of time. So thank you very much. Next up, we've got Eric Haber, who has a great horned owl to share with us tonight.
There we go.
Ah, there we go. Great. Thanks, Eric.
Oh, can I get myself on the screen? How do I get the big view? Let's gallery. No.
I can
Oh.
see you in full screen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see in full screen. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. This great horned owl is being worked on from a section of green trunk, basswood trunk that a neighbor cut down their front tree. I don't know why, about a 9-inch diameter tree. I rescued 2 18-inch sections from it. It was cut down early summer, I guess it was. And I took the bark off and I started to carve this thing. What I'm so surprised about is that compared to the white pine logs that I've worked on for bears, this does not crack very much, just small, fine cracks up here. So they're easy to close up, whereas the pine logs, they just crack kind of, wide, maybe an inch wide crack up and down. So this is really quite interesting. It didn't feel quite like the dried wood that we'd use, basswood, but it carves quite nicely, even though it's moist. It almost felt as if you're carving something moist. But at any rate, it works quite well. Most of the form was done with one of these cutting wheels from using on my grinder, so that the main form was made out of with my grinder like that, and then the rest of it is all chisel work. I've started to use the Dremel a little bit in trying to work out the feather patterns and that, but I wish that the Chapel Publishing book on owls, I just got it today. I wish I had it some weeks ago, so I get a better idea of the patterns of the feathers, especially on the back. On the front, it doesn't seem too bad here. But I've just been struggling with trying to figure out from all these really neat internet photos of live birds, or, really colored photos of birds, because the feathers lie so close together and you can see the pattern, but not so well the individual groupings and so on. So I had a hard time. My front here will be not too bad here, and maybe not too bad here once it's finished. I was having more trouble with the back. I didn't know how big the feathers actually were. I couldn't quite make it out. But so far, I'm quite pleased. It's going to be a present. I'm not going to be painting it. There'll be some pyrography to work on the details of the feathers. And there's just so much detailed stuff to do. I'm having trouble, keeping the individual feathers really clean with the fine chisels and so on that I'm using, and some of the Dremel tools, but I keep having to go back over and over again to clean things out. But this is the stage. It'll have glass eyes as well. I've ordered them. I sort of wish I had the head tufts a little bit bigger. They look a little bit on the sparse side, perhaps, but it looks vicious enough with big claws. These birds have very strong talons. This is roughly maybe 2/3 size or thereabouts. From here to the top is about 16 inches. The males, so this might be a male size roughly, they're smaller than the females. So this was him. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eric. Nice. We'll look forward to seeing him as well, maybe in another show and tell when he's ready to be delivered.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we've got Wayne from Cornwall. He's got a piece he'd like to show us, a relief piece.
Gotta unmute yourself. Wayne.
Wayne, you're still muted.
How's that? Yes? Am I still muted?
We can hear you now.
Okay, good. Okay, this is a piece that I did. I guess I got to stop moving. I don't know if any of you have ever read the children's story Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince, which was written back just after the war. Very popular worldwide. I can see that on the screen. It's not that super, but I found this image on internet and decided to turn it into a little bit of a relief piece. I'm quite pleased with it. It actually looks a lot better than what you can see right now. It's done in basswood, and I finished it off with linseed oil, and I was quite pleased with the effect that it gave. So that's basically it. One of my little projects that kept me busy during COVID.
Wayne.
Okay, thanks, Wayne.
Question.
Okay.
Wayne.
We have a question.
Sue?
Yeah.
Sorry. Was that basswood or it looked like pine, eh?
It looks like pine. I'm positive it was a piece of basswood. And like I said, the way it turned out after I put the linseed oil on it, just turned out beautifully.
That's the grain is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice use of the.
It works great with the piece.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Surprisingly, it just turned out just so nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks very much, Wayne. I think we've got maybe a couple of people that were intending to be here this evening, but perhaps something might have taken them away. I don't think we have Catherine Shearer on with us, do we?
No, I don't see her here.
No, okay. And also Baz, I don't think he's with us tonight. Sylvain Bazinet would probably be what you would see there. Don't see him there. Nope.
Nope, do not see him here, no.
Gord Drayton, I don't see him here.
No.
Suddenly show and tell is moving very quickly. Let's see. Oh, but I think we have Bob Thompson here for us. He's got a few pieces to show us tonight. So I'll turn it over to Bob. I think he's here.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Excellent. Hi, Bob.
Hi. That is with my mallard I carved. And he's fluffing his feathers.
Yeah. What kind of wood is that, Bob?
That's basswood.
Okay. Very nice.
And when we were in Newfoundland last year, we took a picture of the jelly bean roll, the houses in Newfoundland. And so I did a relief carving.
Nice. Very nice.
And then just lately I've been making Christmas ornaments.
Have you ever?
And they're all, these ones are beaded.
Nice.
And there's these bottom ones here, they're apple. These two are apple. And this one's black walnut. And these are basswood here. And these two up here are butternut.
Okay, great. Well, that's a nice selection. Thanks very much, Bob.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next up, we have Jose Gamero. He's going to show us his pen holder.
You're still muted, Jose.
Last year, I visited Florida, and I visited the museum, the Dali Museum, where they show these strange paintings. So back to Canada, I wanted to carve something to remember what I saw there. So I carved this, I don't know if you can see it. I got a piece of wood. It's scrap wood, and I carved Dali's face, and I put here a lot of things that normally we carve on cotton wood. The more you put there, more attractive. And this can be done with any scrap piece of wood. I put ladders, houses, and that stuff, and it's pretty simple. And just drill a hole there for the pen, and that's it. Just for
Great.
a way of reuse or use scrap pieces of wood that you have.
Excellent.
That's basically it.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. I've got a couple of things here that I can show you just quickly that I've been working on over the last little while myself. We've got, I think it kind of speaks to the fact that this summer I didn't get to do a lot of camping, which I usually really enjoy, and really didn't get to do much at all. But when I finally did get out there, it was nice. And I did carve a few things when I was camping, just small things. So I got this little guy here. He's just a little guy. He's got a little backpack on. So sort of in the same theme. Another little one here. He's got a little fishing rod and a fish that he caught. A little hiker with his hiking boots on and the backpack on it. These are just all out of basswood. A little smaller one of park ranger. So he's got his little badges and everything on there. And then we got this fellow who was at the trailhead. He's trying to decide which way to go. He's a little hiker. And so I carved him a little pack to go with his stuff. And he's also got his little camera there. So that's that. And last but not least, what you always don't want to see on a camping trip, a little grizzly bear. So that's the end of my stuff for show and tell. So that wraps it up for tonight for show and tell. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for what you sent in tonight. And you know, it's good to be able to see what everybody's been doing, and we'll look forward to continuing in the future with seeing what everybody's doing as the weeks progress on before we can get together again in person. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, Eric, and same to you.
Yeah. Nice to see you all.
Yep.
Good to see familiar faces.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And just one reminder again that I want to thank Christopher for his presentation, and I hope he's enjoying his beer. So thanks very much, Christopher. It was a really great show, and you certainly entertained us all for the evening and made us jealous of your trip to Prague there.
That's a great presentation.
Yep.
Thank you, very motivational.
And for everybody else for their part in the first virtual attempt for our club, went quite well. I want to thank you all for your support and look forward to it next year. And we'll get more ambitious and try to get some more of these things on the go. And
Get more people.
we'll get more people. Let's spread the word that it does work, and we can have our show and tell and Wood Wizard just the same as we always do, just in a little different format.
And this will be posted on YouTube sometime in the next couple of days. So anybody who wasn't here can view the meeting.
Well, I'll send the link out to everybody in the.
Yeah, perfect.
We can send the link out to everybody so they can see what they missed.
Yep.
Thanks, Andy, for your work.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Bye now.
everyone.
Bye.
Ho, ho, ho.
What?
I said ho, ho, ho.
Oh.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, Patrick, for all your work here tonight. Getting us going.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just an observation with the cameras, maybe depending on the quality of your camera, you can see the difference there for the show and tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a learning process. People are like holding the piece too close, or and lighting's a big thing too. Like I've got a towel on my light overhead there to kind of cut the glare. So it's a learning process, but it's worth it. It's nice to see some carvings. And thanks for hosting it, and thanks, Andy, for all your work.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Patrick. Thanks.
Okay.
Have a great Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.